here, but nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give him hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fighting like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on.
Info. Ready.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate.
Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah.
11 got it.
Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position and we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Thanks for joining as we head to Darlington tomorrow. Yep, it's another Saturday night edition of Racing in the Draft or baseball tournament tomorrow. Even though we just got word that we are on a 2-hour delay, but that still would put his first game at 11 a.m., which I think I like doing these Saturday night editions anyways. So welcome. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I appreciate you joining in. All right, before we dive into this week at Darlington, let's take a look back at a very, very exciting race at Kansas, where Denny Hamlin called his shot and said he was going to win. Well, at least he said he was going to win one of the upcoming races. I guess that's kind of calling your shot. But he got the win, passing Kyle Larson on the last lap. And great racing. Probably I have to agree with a lot of the other talking heads out there that it was probably the best race of the year so far. We may see something quite similar at Darlington this week. So keep your eyes open tomorrow. It's going to be a fun and interesting race. It's going to be hot. It's going to be warm. It's going to do all those types of things. So tire wear is going to be an absolute premium. Lots of different strategies, but let's take a look at Kansas. Denny Hamlin started 8th and got the win and led 34 laps, so not really a dominator, but 44 fast laps. We had Kyle Larson leading 85 laps, started second, finished second. Bubba Wallace, as expected, ended up in the top 5 with a 4th place finish. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. getting up into a 12th place. Ricky's having quite a good little year after his win at Daytona, so we'll keep an eye on Ricky. He also was pretty fast in practicing, at least in practice for Darlington. So Justin Haley finishing 18th, and AJ Allmendinger kind of surprised me and got up into 14th for our optimal lineups. Other guys not making the optimal lineup, but had pretty good days. Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, William Byron, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Ross, Eric Almirola, and Austin Dillon. So, I didn't quite fix that right, but Kyle Larson has 5 optimal lineup wins, along with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are both tied with 5 at the top. So they a little bit of separation over Ross Chastain with 4, and Tyler Reddick, Michael McDowell, Kyle Busch, Todd Gillen, William Byron, Corey LaChoy. God, it's too many to say who has 3. But we didn't have anybody new coming into the optimal lineup challenge from Kansas, so we gotta separate the top a little bit. All right, next up is, of course, Darlington for the Goodyear 400. Darlington is a very unique track. It's kind of I guess they call it kind of an egg-shaped type of track, but it's steep, high tire wear, intermediate. It is 1.33 miles in length. Turns 1 and 2 are banked at 25 degrees. Turns 3 and 4 at 23 degrees. The race length for tomorrow's race is 293 laps. Dominator points will be a total of 205.1, coming from laps led of 73.25 and fast laps of 130.85. So that kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking for. I think we will definitely need to look at at least one, maybe a potential second dominator as the race begins to wear on and tires become a premium. We may see some comers and goers, but I think, through that first little bit of stage, we'll definitely have probably some dominators that'll kind of run out and to start this thing, and then as cautions happen and pit stops start happening, we'll see the field start to shake up, and we may not see the exact same leader the entire race. That's kind of what happened at Kansas. We saw lots of lead changes. Supposedly, it was a record for lead changes at 1.5-mile tracks. There's lots of dispute on where they're actually saying lead changes happen. I'm not getting into all that. I just care who finishes across the line in first, or who has the fastest lap, because that's really what counts, and who finishes first at the end of the race. All right, so that kind of gives us an idea. When I'm breaking down and I'm comparing other tracks to Darlington, Dover is one that we look at. Kansas is another. Miami Homestead is another. We can also put Vegas into this mix, which are all high tire wear tracks, all very high speeds into corners. So those are kind of the 4 or 5 tracks that we compare when we're looking at this high tire wear and decent banking. But the real reason we're here is to discuss drivers and their stats and pricing and all that for Draftkings. So we start at the top. The guy who has been at the top of the heap for a long time, at least in Draftkings, for most of it, Kyle Larson. And I'll kind of go through this box and this first box in a lot of detail if you're new to watching the stream. This will kind of give you a breakdown of what's inside this box, and then we'll kind of go through and discuss a little bit. We'll summarize the rest of them and go into some details as we come across them. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you're joining in. Make sure you hit me up in the chat. Let me know who your thoughts are. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to come from the back of the pack? Who do you think is going to lead the most laps? Because that's kind of one of the things that we're looking for when we're looking at our Draftkings. Place differential is a big one. You'll hear me say PD upside, which is place differential upside, because you get 1 point per position that you gain from the point that you start the race to the time you finish the race. It's not each place that you move throughout the race. It's all done from the start to the end, except for fast laps, which is the fastest car on a particular lap. So you could potentially have the 15th place driver lead or have the fastest lap. And then we have laps led, which gives you only 1/4 of a point. A fast lap gives you 0.45 of a point, which do add up. When you've got 293 of those points can add up, and that's what creates dominators. So the biggest ones we look at are, of course, our dominator points. We look at our place differentials, and we also look at finishing position. The most points pay for that first place spot. I think the points is 45 points for first place. And then it kind of just gradually goes down from there. But Kyle Larson, 10,900 in the Draftkings, is qualified 7th. So that's his starting spot. And then in this gray area here next to his starting spot are his practice speeds or practice positions. He was 25th in single lap speed. So the fastest lap that he ran against everybody else's fastest lap, he fell 25th. He had 31 total laps of practice, and he did do a 10-lap consecutive run. He actually ended up doing like a 30-lap consecutive run. So he just went out and ran for 31 laps and then pitted, and they went to work for qualifying. But in the fastest 10-lap consecutive average, he was 12th out of, I think it was pretty much 32 guys that ended up doing 10-lap consecutive averages out of 36. So most of the field did end up doing at least a 10-lap consecutive average. This kind of shows where the fall off might be, where they may end up on a little bit of a longer run compared to short end speed. So Kyle Larson definitely improved his position from his single lap speed to his little bit longer speed, and then went out and they set it up for a 1-lap hot lap for qualifying, where he qualified 7th. Family man, I'm going to say Chase Elliott wins this race. I'm going to say something crazy. I think Bubba leads a good bit of this race. Both of them were very, very good in practice, short run and long run speeds for both of them. Chase Elliott, for our benefit, missed in qualifying. Bubba did not, so Bubba's starting a little bit lot further up, where I think Chase is starting 21st, which is our benefit because we have a chance for a lot of decent place differential with Chase Elliott. When we get to him, we'll talk about that. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, the only thing crazy about the Bubba call, Matt, is that it potentially, but this is not one of Bubba's better tracks. Now he did run the truck race and ended up having a decent race in the truck race, so maybe a little bit of extra time and experience on the track may help. But we'll continue to break down Kyle Larson here. Bubba Wallace is not far down in pricing, so we'll get to him in just a minute also. But yeah, I think both of those, I don't think you're too crazy by saying Bubba could do it. He raced really well at Kansas last week. And this sport is all about momentum. But Kyle Larson, so on this next line here, he has 4 starts, and this is from the Darlington fall and spring 2022, the fall and spring of 21, and the fall race of 20. So the last 5 races at Darlington are what I'm looking at inside this box here. And over those last 5 races, now Kyle Larson did miss the fall 2020 race because he was still on suspension. But I'll be glad not to have to say that every week. We're getting close to where he doesn't have that anymore. But in those 4 races that he started, he had 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and 3 top 20s, a 49.6 Draftkings average over the course of those 5 races, and a 13th place average finish. The last race at Darlington was the fall race inside the playoffs last fall, and he finished 12th. And then over here to the far right is his full history at Darlington, where he's got a total of 10 starts. He's got 5 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and 9 top 20s. He's got a 9.2 average finish over those 10 races also. So his average finish is a little bit better over the 10 races than over the last 5. And then over here to the top right, the 3 is what I consider kind of my calculations of a power ranking. It takes into account the last 5 races here, the last 10 races at similar style tracks, and we discussed that before we came into here, the different tracks I'd look at. And then it also looks at the last 10 races that they've run. It also takes into account practice and qualifying and place differential potential. So all of that kind of gets formulated, and I come up with a 3 on the ranking systems for Kyle Larson. And then here's my ownership percentage. I do run 40 different lineups, and I run about 5 different tournaments. I usually do the 20 max tournaments. And then I mix and match those 40 different lineups inside of those. So I'm not fully repeating myself a whole lot, kind of giving my exposure differently in different tournaments. So I have Kyle Larson in about 35 to 40% of those lineups. I typically don't ever give exact numbers unless I just say I'm not running this guy. But I do have Kyle Larson in 35 to 40% of my lineups. And he did really well today in the Xfinity race, getting his first win at Darlington earlier this afternoon. So keep an eye out for Kyle Larson. He has been really, really strong this year. Other than a few mishaps that were not all of his fault, he probably would have a lot more wins than his 2 has currently so far this year. And was a half a lap from winning last week at Kansas to Denny Hamlin. But Denny Hamlin, 10,700. Starting 8th, he was 23rd in single lap and 21st in 10 lap consecutive average. He does have 1 win in the last 5 races here, with 3 top 5s, 4 top 20s, a 55.3 Draftkings average, and a pretty respectable 8.4 average finish. He did finish 2nd here in the fall race last year, and he does have a best average finish of 6.5 over 21 total starts here at Darlington. with 5 wins. That's impressive. 5 wins, 19 of the 21 starts he's finished in the top 20, 14 out of 21. So 2/3 of the time, Denny Hamlin is finishing in the top 5. Denny Hamlin will be strong again tomorrow. And after his win at Kansas, momentum is something that gets played into the thought process when you're building teams. So little bit of PD upside, not much, starting in the top 10, but potential great finishing position and potential dominator for Denny Hamlin. So definitely keep an eye out for Denny Hamlin. And I have him in 35 to 40% of my laps. Martin Truex Jr. next in line here at 10,500. Won the Dover race. And he is now starting on the pole for this race. He was 22nd in single lap speed and 16th in 10 lap consecutive average. He does have a best 71.1 Draftkings average over the last 5 races at Darlington with a 16.4 average finish. He did finish 31st in the fall race last year. And out of his total 21 starts, he's got a 21.6 average with 2 wins. I don't like pole sitters. Anybody that's watched this channel before knows that I don't like the pole sitter. So hence why I only have him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. I didn't completely fade him because we have seen guys that qualify well and race well at a certain track. They can end up still finishing, potentially win, or still finishing high enough that only losing 1 or 2 spots is not that big of a detriment. So I definitely have some ownership of Martin Truex Jr., but there is there is some downside to taking the pole sitter. Just the potential if he happens to have a bad pit stop, or a bad setup on one of the runs, or stays long, or just gets tangled up with somebody else not of his doing, it's just negative points. So I mean, he finishes 11th, it's minus 10 points. So with that being said, I don't typically take a whole lot of ownership in the pole sitter. All right, next in line here, William Byron. So all 4 of these guys have wins so far this year and have been running really, really well and up front, and that's why they're priced as high as they are. But William Byron, 10,300, starting 4th. He was 3rd in single lap, 1st in 10 lap consecutive average. He finished 8th in this race last fall. He's got a 12.8 average finish, 2 top 5s in the last 5 races, and in the 9 total starts, he's got an 18.6 average finish with those 2 top 5s also. I do like William Byron. I think he has the potential to be an early dominator. I think he could get himself up front. I think his biggest challenge will be Martin Truex Jr., and there are a couple other guys he's got to get by, but William Byron typically is pretty fast, and his short run and long run speed were both very, very respectable. So if you're just joining in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit me up in the chat. Let me know your thoughts about tomorrow's Goodyear 400. Would love to have a discussion about who you like and who you don't like. Kyle Busch, next in line here at 10,100, starting 12th. He was 12th in single lap speed, 8th in 10 lap consecutive average, did 34 total laps of practice. He finished 30th in this race in the fall of last year, and over the last 5 races, a not so respectable 21.6 average finish. And it's amazing, Kyle Busch only has 1 win at Darlington in his Cup career, with only 6 top 5s out of 22 total starts. And I would think that this style of track would fit Kyle Busch fairly well, but for some reason he doesn't fully run the best here at Darlington. Maybe tomorrow will change, being in the Chevy. We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, his practice speeds were pretty respectable. If he can miss any attrition and not have any screw ups on pit road, like Kyle Busch has sped, I think, every race this year on pit road, or it feels that way. So Kyle Busch can just not speed and have a decent finish. He may be worth somebody to take a look at. I've got him in 25 to 30% of my lineups. Hey Paul, how you doing tonight? Good seeing you. Thanks for tuning in. Who do you like for this weekend, or for tomorrow's Cup race? All right. Next in line here, Tyler Reddick. Between Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson, I'm not sure which one of these two guys likes to rip the outside wall more. So when I say rip the outside wall, is literally they will drive 6 inches from the wall around the corners at 140, 145 miles an hour. It's insane what Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson can do and how close they can get to the wall without making contact. Now they make contact. They almost always have a Darlington stripe along the side of their car. But Tyler Reddick is really, really known for having unbelievable car control next to the wall. Now, it does give you, when you get that close to the wall, not that I've ever been racing and have felt this. I have felt it in my simulator, which I'm sitting in. You can get a little bit of it. It's almost an air bubble when you get that close to the wall, as long as you're not trying to slam up into it. But if you just kind of glide your car around it, you can almost feel where the wall, the air bubble, almost pushes your car just a little bit off, and you can almost steer kind of into the wall. It's really, really, it's a weird feeling. But there is an air bubble or pocket that does get created when you're going that fast up next to the wall. But either way, Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson are the two best at it. Christopher Bell's also pretty good at it, but Tyler Reddick, they've got a really cool camera shot down the right side of the car, right behind the rear spoiler, that really shows you how close these guys get to that wall, and it's unbelievable. But either way, Tyler Reddick, 9,900, starting 9th, was 4th in single lap practice and 10th in 10 lap consecutive average. And he's got a pretty respectable 2 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s in the last 5 races here at Darlington with an 11.6 average finish. He did finish 3rd in this race last year. He was in a Chevy last year, and he's in a Toyota this year. The Toyotas may have a little bit of an edge on the Chevys, and they both definitely have an edge over the Fords again this weekend. So there are a couple Fords that I'm going to keep an eye on, but for the most part, the Fords still don't seem to have the speed. Now, tire wear and tire fall off will be a little bit of an equalizer this weekend, but I still think the Toyotas and the Chevys are going to be the ones to beat. I think really the Toyotas may have an edge. But Tyler Reddick does not have a win here. Darlington out of his 7 total starts, but 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 6 top 20s, and a very respectable 11.1 average finish. Next in line here, Chase Elliott, who was really, really fast in practice. Had the fastest 1 lap speed and second fastest 10 lap consecutive average. He did 31 total laps. And he was fastest all the way until the 30 lap run, and Kyle Larson ended up beating him on the 30 lap run. I don't notate that because they're typically only a handful of drivers will make it that far on a run. We did have, I think, 16 guys who made 30 lap consecutive runs, but Chase Elliott was second and Kyle Larson was first. So keep in mind, the Chevys with Hendrick seemed to have really, really good long run speed. The Toyotas were not far off from that. But Chase Elliott does not have a win here at Darlington yet, but does have 1 win, 2 top 5s, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 3 top 20s, a 19.8 average finish over the last 5 starts at Darlington, with an abysmal last place finish last year in the fall race. Excuse me. Ross Chastain. Boy, who knew Ross Chastain had a right hook? Guess Noah Gragson knows it now after last weekend. So, yeah, don't mess with Ross on the track, and probably don't want to mess with Ross on pit road either. He's got a mean right hook. So, if you missed last week's end of the race, after the race, post-race confrontation between Ross and Noah, yeah, Ross took care of that pretty quickly. Check out the videos online. Ross Chastain, 9,400, starting 5th. 9th in single lap, 4th in 10 lap consecutive average. He's got a 19.4 average finish over the last 5 races here, with only 1 top 5, 3 top 20s. I mean, Ross will definitely have a Darlington stripe by the end of this thing. He's an extremely aggressive driver. Tire fall off will be significant. Ross is pretty good with older tires when the car gets really, really loose, but Ross is almost a little too aggressive for Darlington in a lot of ways. So I'm backed off on Ross. That's probably where the field's going to have him at about 15 to 20% is my guess. So I'm probably in line. I could even see going down a little bit, but his practice speeds were pretty good. So I don't mind Ross this weekend. Even though he has not made any friends lately. Even Chase Elliott is real not happy with Ross Chastain. In fact, Chase Elliott, I think, was the instigator to the whole fight last weekend with Noah. At least that's what I've heard. Christopher Bell, next in line here at 9,200, starting 16th. 18th in single lap, 13th in 10 lap consecutive average. Christopher Bell finished 5th in this race last fall. 15.8 average finish. Has 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s in the last 5 races. And it's about the same stats because he's only got 7 total starts at Darlington. Decent PD upside potential here with Christopher Bell, and I forgot to mention Chase Elliott starting 21st. Chase is going to be heavily owned with that 21st place starting spot. I expect Chase to probably at least be up in the top 10, if not top 5 by the end of this thing. And kind of the same thing with Christopher Bell. I think he gets himself into a top 10, maybe even a top 5 position, as long as he can avoid the carnage that will happen, and there will be some carnage. If you happen to check out the Xfinity race today, they had the big one. It was the largest collection of cars in a wreck outside of a super speedway since 2019 today. Yeah, it was just a complete mess. Next in line here, Joey Logano, who won the spring race, which is the race we're racing today, last year, and then backed it up with a 4th place finish in the fall race. So he does have a 5.8 average finish over the last 5 races. He and one other driver are the only 2 drivers with 5 top 20s and 5 of the last starts. A 56.2 Draftkings average. He does have the 1 win from the spring race. Hey, how we doing? Serpaco? That's how you told me to pronounce it. I suck at names. Yep, having a great weekend. Other than Ben Rhodes cost me a small fortune Friday night in the Truck Series. Yeah, I was having a great, a really, really good run in DraftKings with the truck race until the very last caution. And Ben Rhodes slipping back and Corey Hamm sneaking back up. Cost me a little bit. Actually, it cost me over $1,000. That's okay. We have those ups and downs. I've had my great ones. Hey, no, that's part of this game. It's all ups and downs. And even after a race is over, as they're sorting out finishing positions, you can watch your money go up and down very quickly. I'm not sure how many of you guys watch that, but it's quite quite stressful, especially when you're sitting on, a top 5 finish in one of the tournaments. Yeah, that is life. Lots of ups and downs. I've been on the opposite side where I had literally going to last corner, was not doing well. Something big would happen. I think it was when Michael McDowell ended up winning the Daytona 500. I was losing money after the big wreck with Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, and Michael McDowell ended up winning. I think I ended up with like $5,000. And then about a year and a half later, ended up winning $10,000 and finishing first in the Chrome Horn at Daytona. So I've had 2 really, really good wins that have pretty much covered any of the bad things that I've had happen. I've had some other races that have gone really, really well too, but those are my 2 big, big wins. But either way, Joe Logano, starting 15th, we've got some PD upside potential. His practice speeds were about where he qualified. The only thing that kind of has me struggling to pick a Joey is the Fords just don't seem to have the short run speed or the long run speed. Now, with some attrition, a Ford can probably sneak up there. And like I said, there is one Ford team that I'm looking at that potentially has found something that the other Ford teams have not. And he's coming up shortly. But, I mean, Joey runs really, really well at Darlington. So starting 15th, there is PD upside potential. Joey's also had some ups and downs so far this year. So NASCAR can change in a sec. Oh, yeah, ask Kyle Larson today. Literally going to that last corner, racing second. I mean, he got the win today, but lost it last weekend with Denny Hamlin. So, yeah, half a lap and a wall can cost you a race. Next in line here, Kevin Harvick, 8,800, another Ford. Once again, starting 20th. Good PD upside potential here. Kevin Harvick runs really, really well at Darlington. He's got a win in the last 5. Got 2 wins in the last 30. A 12.8 average finish, a 9.8 average finish over the last 5 races. He was 24th in single lap and 11th in 10 lap consecutive average. Not awful. Decent amount of PD upside potential here with Kevin. I have a decent amount of ownership, 30 to 35%. I think he might be one of the highest Fords that I have. Yeah, he definitely beat Joe Logano. We'll see. I think he might be the highest Ford. Now, he didn't have a great fall race, but we look at the whole picture, not just one race. So Kevin Harvick has potential here. Keselowski seems to have the best Ford, in my opinion. That's who I'm getting to. Him and Chris Buescher might be the class of the Fords. We'll get to him in just a second. Coming up very quickly. Bubba Wallace, Matt's pick, potentially. Either that or Chase Elliott, he says. But Bubba Wallace, let's look at some stats here. He was fast in practice. He was fast in qualifying. Excuse me. But in the last 5 races at Darlington, he's only got 1 top 10, which equated to 1 top 20. Sucks part Bubba starting second. Yeah, if Bubba was starting 15th and was 6th in single lap and 3rd in 10 lap consecutive average, I would have more ownership. But as you see, I don't have a whole lot of ownership in Bubba. So Bubba could easily burn me tomorrow. But I guess in that case, so could Martin Truex Jr. But the Toyotas are fast. Gosh, they're fast, especially on single lap speed. Short run speed, they seem to be really good. And I mean, Bubba was 3rd in 10 lap consecutive average. So that's not bad either. He finished 9th in this race last fall. That really is the highlight of his career at Darlington, was that 9th place finish. So that's a tough pill to swallow, in my opinion. And starting second, I mean, yeah, you got 1 spot you can move up, but you've got 35 that you can fall. So not a ton of upside with Bubba Wallace here. That's the only thing that scares me. Yeah, so I've faded off of Bubba Wallace. I think I might have him in 1. Bubba's the ultimate turn. Yeah, because I don't think anybody's gonna play him. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that diamond in the rough that nobody's gonna play that ends up having a great race. I mean, Bubba's ownership is probably gonna be somewhere between 10 and 12% ownership, in my guess. So yeah, if you're looking to be contrarian, I mean, Bubba Wallace could be a play. Ryan Blaney, 8,400. I mean, this could be another one that I don't think is going to have a whole lot of ownership. 8,400. He's starting 11th. He was 14th in single lap and 6th in 10 lap consecutive average. So that's not bad. Driving a Ford, so pretty fast for the Ford. But we look at his total work, and he's only got 1 top 10, 3 top 20s. This is one of Ryan Blaney's worst tracks. A 16.8 average finish. All the stats kind of lean towards Ryan Blaney's going to finish where he starts or worse. And I'm sorry, even if you start 11th, finish 11th, that's not going to be enough in a tournament play to do well enough. You potentially get away with maybe playing him in cash, but even that kind of scares me a little bit, because I don't know how many dominator points he ends up getting, and you're gonna need to finish that. You need to have some domination in finishing the top 10 to make an optimal or a really good tournament lineup. Cash, it gets played a little different, and I'm not the cash play Because I don't play cash. I don't play cash. I don't play the 50/50s, and those types of things. So I'm not the best at building cash lineups. I understand the thought processes behind them. Um, and Ryan Blaney might be a safe play there. I mean, really, what you're looking for are safe plays for cash tournaments. And I'm not sure Ryan Blaney's really that safe of a play. Kind of like Bubba Wallace. I don't think Bubba Wallace is a safe play. Now, in a tournament, you're trying to find that one-off where nobody's got him. Brad Keselowski, next in line here, the one Ford that I have a little bit of ownership in, or could even get behind having ownership in. Starting 10th, he was 13th in single lap, 17th in 10-lap consecutive average. And it's still not even that great. He's got 2 top 10s and 3 top 20s in the last 5 races. Finished 7th in the fall race here at Darlington. Yeah, I mean, kind of sitting at the same boat as a Ryan Blaney with Brad K. The thing is, Brad K's been running consistently better than Ryan Blaney so far this year. And I think Blaney may still have more points than Brad. But Brad has really started to come on, and actually RFK Racing has started to really turn the corner in the last 4 weeks. So, once again, I mean, the Fords just kind of have me worried still. Nothing's showing me that the Fords have the speed to keep up with the Chevys and the Toyotas, at least to finish top 5s and potential top 10s. But I think Brad could be kind of in the same boat as Ryan Blaney and kind of finishes where he starts. Even though I think Brad Keselowski's really starting to turn that whole team around at this point. Josh Berry, $8,000, starting 23rd. He was 27th in single lap, 27th in 10-lap consecutive average, and we don't have any stats here for Josh Berry. The one thing about Josh Berry that probably finds most intriguing, Josh Berry is a short track, late model stock racer, and those guys know how to save tires. Josh Berry is really good at saving tires, and he's good at staying out on long runs. If he didn't have an issue last week with another driver, he would have had a top 10 finish. He was running close to the top 10 most of the day last week and has been running really, really well. Starting 23rd, we have some PD upside. I have him in 15 to 20% of my lineups. You're doing mostly cash and build some bankroll. It's hard slamming Larson. Then who am I stuck on? Yeah, I mean, I think Denny's a good cash play this week. I think Chase, because he's probably going to be somebody fairly safe that's going to end up finishing in the top 10 starting 21st. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Larson, Truex, Chase Elliott, LaJoy. It depends on how many different cash plays you're going to play. I would interchange a Larson and a Hamlin with then have a Chase in your lineup. If I'm trying to build a safe lineup that potentially isn't going to win a tournament, but it's going to be a safe lineup, I think scares me not to play. Yeah, I think Larson and Hamlin are kind of interchangeable. They potentially easily could finish 1-2 again. Yeah, so I think you kind of have to play a Larson. I think you kind of have to play a Chase Elliott. I don't know about the LaJoy play. I know he's starting 33rd, and I know he's pretty good here. But when you're starting that far back, you have some potentials for running into some issues. You've got to come a long way in the field. Larson has been so much better than what his... Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Larson, probably between him and Byron, probably could have easily won 2/3 of the races that yeah, no, I get you. You got to have some place differential, and I think that's... I mean, LaJoy has a tendency this year has consistently been finishing top 20, if not top 15s. Starting 33rd, that's a pretty good play. How many different cash lineups do you play? That's kind of, I guess, a question that I'm kind of looking for. Yeah, it's 5,400. You can, because you could put LaJoie in there. You can run a Hamlin and a Larson, and maybe even a Chase Elliott. But then you got to build probably one more low play, and I don't like the guy that's at 5,800. And Matt and I talked about this earlier. I don't usually play two. I would play one with Hamlin and one with Larson. With a cash play, I almost want to run two different lineups. I would run one Larson, one Hamlin, one with Elliott. Who else would I run in a cash turn? I mean, you could run a Josh Berry in one and an Elliott in one. That may not be bad. Yeah, I'm not. No, I do not. I recommend touching Ryan Newman. Now, give Ryan Newman the fifth time he runs this car for Rick Ware. That's when I'll start to look at Newman. This car, this new next gen car, drives nothing like any of the cars that Ryan Newman has ever driven in his NASCAR career, and he's going to jump in at one of the hardest tracks that they run at. Now, Newman has got great stats at Darlington, don't get me wrong, but this car takes a lot of learning to get used to on how to save the car once it gets loose. It has a tendency to break loose, and the slightest overcorrection will just snap the car the other way. And Ryan Newman's not going to be used to that. I know he's probably had some sim time in the Chevy simulator and those types of things, but until you've been on the track and dealt with that and felt that the first time, it's something very, very different. Now, it would be cool to see him run up front. I get that, but he is. I will lose a tournament and not take Newman. I'll be surprised if he makes it halfway. People might see Newman and say, "Oh, he's cheap." Yeah, and that's the other thing. He's in a Rick Ware car. I know Rick Ware's trying to build that team and move it slightly to the next level, kind of where Spire's at. I know that that's what they're trying to do. They're hiring good people around them, and they're bringing in Ryan Newman now to really kind of see what is going on with their program and where they can improve. The problem, I mean, these guys get out of this car for over a year, and we're now talking almost a year and a half. I don't know if Ryan Newman was the right call, but I mean, who else are you going to go get right now? That's the issue. So, yeah, we'll get to Ryan Newman in a minute, but I'm not touching him. I mean, and that might actually be a decent little tournament play. Run a Bubba Wallace and Ryan Newman and Martin Truex Jr. Yeah, I don't think many people will have the three of them in a lineup together. If they like their money, in my opinion. But it could potentially hit. I mean, those are the weird lineups that you just go, who did that? And they actually won? Okay. Daniel Suarez, 7,900. I mean, here's another guy that I think is just, he outhit this coverage during qualifying. He was 31st in single lap, 24th in 10-lap consecutive average. He finished 18th in this race last fall. He got a 17.8 average finish. He's only got one top 10, and his total 10 starts. Yeah, Daniel Suarez outkicked his coverage. You want to have a really contrarian lineup, run Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Newman, and a lineup. Yeah, that'll throw in. Don't do that for cash. That would be a really bad cash lineup, or really scary cash lineup. But yeah, I don't have much ownership in Daniel Suarez. I just think he outkicked his coverage. I think Daniel could finish top 15. I think it's a stretch to have him finish top 10. But I mean, it's why we race. Any given day, any of these guys could win. They all have won at some level in NASCAR, or have just a huge cash flow that they can go racing with. Ty Gibbs next in line here at 7,700, and I tell you what, I almost called his shot last week until he had that one slight issue. He was running top 3, and he was looking solid last week at Kansas. This track's, I mean, as you say, it's track too tough to tame. It's tough. Ty Gibbs knows how to get around it, especially in an Xfinity car, and he's really starting to figure out this Cup car. I'm still saying Ty Gibbs wins a race this year, and he may win one before we make the playoffs. I will still go out and say that I think Ty Gibbs wins a race this year. I just think he's putting in the time and work. I don't think Darlington's the track that's going to do it for him. He's done okay in the Xfinity Series at Darlington, but not his best track either. Now, he did finish 15th in this race last fall in the Cup Series. 7,700. I think Ty Gibbs kind of finishes where he starts. I think he's kind of right there too. I mean, 13th in qualifying, 20th in one lap speed, 14th in 10 lap consecutive average. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like him in tournament plays. Might be okay in a cash play situation. Don't love it. It scares me more than I like it. I do like some Chris Buescher. Talk about, whoops, I slipped up in qualifying on the other direction. Daniel Suarez did really well at qualifying and did not do good in practice, where Chris Buescher had pretty good practice speeds and, whoops, messed up qualifying. I'll take the whoops. This is not a bad play for your cash lineups. Starting 27th, I like Chris Buescher more than I probably like Corey LaJoie. Now he's more expensive at 7,600, but yeah, 11th in single lap, 7th in 10 lap consecutive average. Got an average finish of 17.2. He's raced here 11 times. He's got enough experience. He knows how to get around here. So I like Chris Buescher. I've got him in 25 to 30% of my lineups. So if you could fit him in one of those two cash lineups, I think he's a pretty good play. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ooh, Ricky. This isn't Daytona, buddy. And you're fast. Gosh, qualified third, 5th in single lap, 5th in 10 lap consecutive average. Wow. I just starting third. I just when I think about Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I don't think of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. being a top. I don't put him in the same boat as Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson and right now Martin Truex Jr. Now I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is at best a 15th. So I think he outkicked his coverage, to be honest. I don't have much ownership. I don't trust it. There's too many other guys behind him. Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, that I think get past Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now, I mean, he was fast. And he was pretty fast last week at Kansas. He's been doing much better this year. I'm just not ready to bite the bullet unless it was a super speedway on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So there's another one that you can put him with Bubba Wallace in that crazy lineup because I don't have any ownership of him. You don't like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. either? Okay. Playing Stenhouse is like playing Bubba. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you want to be really contrarian, yeah, you could put a Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Martin Truex Jr., all in a lineup together and see what happens. Maybe I'll find the most contrarian one and just throw it into one of the 150 lineup deals, maybe the 50-cent one, and just kind of see what happens to it. Report back next week. I mean, here's another one you could throw in that mix too. Even though he does have a lot of PD upside potential, Chase Briscoe, 7,300. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I know he broke his finger, but what the heck happened to Chase Briscoe in the last 3 races? I mean, ever since the surgery, really. I mean, he did really well at the dirt at Bristol, did okay at Martinsville, and then since then, Chase Briscoe is getting beat by BJ McLeod. He fell off a cliff. Um, he's starting 31st, 21st in single lap, 29th in 10 lap consecutive average, and he's not that good here at Darlington. He doesn't have a top 10. He's got 3 top 20s out of 4 starts. 19.3 average finish. Finished 27th in the fall race last year. Even with a ton of PD upside potential, I don't like. Here's another one you could be contrarian with. It's around Chase Briscoe. Yeah. Country car. Yeah. There's also some weird superstition about green cars. Daniel Suarez has got a green car. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s got a green car. I typically, when I see green cars, it's just, and I know it's all superstitious, but I'd look at it and go, nope, not running them in any of my lineups. So there we go. I'm not running either of those two just because they have got green on their cars. So, all right. Next in line here, Eric Jones. Woo-wee. He was fast in single lap practice. And then it's like the wheels came off. 28th in 10 lap consecutive average and 28th in qualifying. But Eric's got 2 wins here. He's got a 10.7 average finish over 10 races. I think he's going to have a ton of ownership. Here's probably a good, decent cash play. Yeah, and you're right, Matt. This is absolutely an Eric track. He loves this place. Petty loves this place. Yeah. He might get more ownership than Chase Elliott this week. Just because of the PD upside potential here. Yeah. I mean, as you can see, I've got him in 25 to 30% of my lineups. I don't like his long run speed, but I think he can make adjustments because he does run this thing so well. Match playing him a lot. Eric Almirola? Ooh, we'll get to him in a second. Really good at super speedways. He's kind of like Bubba Wallace. He's really good at super speedways. He's pretty good at short tracks. These intermediate tracks, Almirola's not that. But Eric Jones, I definitely I like for cash tournaments, and I like him in tournaments. Here's another one I like a lot, and this may be a decent cash play too. Is Austin Dillon at $7,000? The last 5 races at Darlington, he has top 20s. Him and Joey Logano are the only 2 drivers to have all 5 of the last 5 races to finish in the top 20. Yeah, I mean, a 10.8 average finish. Yeah, 13.3 over 13 races. He was 16th in single lap, 23rd in 10 lap consecutive average, and qualified 18th. I think Austin Dillon probably gets about where he finishes on average, probably 10th. And that at $7,000 might be just kind of the sweet spot to be in. I don't think he's going to go out and win the race. I mean, sure, it's possible, but I think best he gets up to 5th. Probably more realistic, he finishes 9th, 10th, 11th. But for $7,000, I think Austin Dillon's a pretty safe play, especially in cash. Ryan Preece, starting 32nd. Once again, we're back to the only Stewart-Haas car that I like is Kevin Harvick. And the only reason I like him is because Kevin's really good at making adjustments behind the wheel of the car and telling his crew chief what he thinks needs to be done to the car. And Rodney Childress is really good at making the adjustments. But I don't think, I mean, Ryan Preece, there's nothing in any of these stats that go, ooh, I need to take some Ryan Preece, other than we have a decent amount of PD upside potential. But if I was just going on that, I would look at Eric Almirola also. Or Chase Briscoe. Those 3 cars just have fallen off the cliff. 6,800, 29th in single lap speed, 26th in 10 lap consecutive average. His average finish is 18th. Okay, so if he gets his average finish, he does okay. But the Stewart-Haas cars just have not shown anything on these intermediate style tracks, especially with high tire wears. So I guess I do have him in a few lineups. You don't really have anywhere to go but up, especially what's running behind you. He's gonna beat Brennan Poole. He's gonna, unless if everything was equal and they didn't wreck, Ryan Preece is gonna beat BJ McLeod. He's gonna beat Brennan Poole. He's gonna beat Ty Dillon. He's probably gonna be at least equal to or better than Corey LaJoie. He's gonna beat Harrison Burton. So I don't think he finishes any worse than 32nd if he finishes the race. If something weird happens, then something weird happens. But it's a little bit safer of a bet because you don't really have anywhere to go but up. So I don't like the play. I guess I liked it a little bit. I got him in 25% of my lineups. But this was kind of the spot that you had to kind of take. You had to take a Ty Dillon or a Corey LaJoie or one of those cheap guys that are under 5,500, and then you had to take one of these guys to get to the Denny Hamlins and all those. Let's see here. We might have a big wreck. Looking at the top 10. Yeah, did you watch the Xfinity race today? Massive 15-car pileup. And that threw all sorts of lineups into a quandary, to say the least. Haley and Joy both have, and actually, Haley does decent here. We'll get down to him in a second. Let's keep running through these, and we'll look at these cheaper options. AJ Allmendinger, 8th in single lap, didn't do a 10-lap consecutive run. He has 11 total starts with a 26.3 average finish. Starting 30th. But this is the race that kind of sets me up for AJ, that I go, nope, not going to touch him. He's only a road course ringer. And then he'll go out and finish 11th. And then I go, where did that come from? He's quietly having a okay year. He's not having even close to the success he was having last year in the Cup Series on ovals. Yes, he's going to do really well on road courses. No doubt. He's AJ Allmendinger, the road course ringer. But he's not finishing as well as he did last year on ovals. I don't know if he's just biding his time until he gets to a road course. But then, I mean, the problem is the playoffs only have one road course. What are you going to do? He's got to figure out how to get faster on ovals. And everything equal, I mean, other than AJ being in a Chevy, Ryan Preece finishes better than AJ. So I don't know. He keeps throwing me for a loop every week. I just never know when to take him because there is nothing consistent into what AJ's doing. At least there's some consistency in Haley here at 6,500. Starting 22nd, I mean, kind of outqualified himself. He's 30th in single lap, 30th in 10 lap consecutive average, but his average finishes are pretty good. 18.8 average finish for a guy at 6,500 is pretty good. I mean, that's almost. I mean, he's not far off of Merrick Jones's numbers, and he's got a top 5, one top 5, one top 10, 2 top 20s. Finished 19th in this race last fall in the new next gen car. I mean, it's not awful. So at 6,500, starting 22nd would be the biggest concern that I have. If you were starting where AJ was at 30th, this would be probably 25 to 30% on it. Xfinity correlated well with Auto Club. Think it can apply tomorrow. Yes and no. The thing that threw everything for a loop today and at Darlington was the big one that happened when they wrecked 15 cars. But I think the car is going to be as loose It's going to be, the tire wear is going to be as significant. We're going to have guys that are falling off. We're going to have guys that are going to run over each other, which is going to cause some attrition. So do I think it correlates as well as it did in Auto Club? Just because of the tire wear, yes. But it's different. It's a way different style track. But I think there will be some correlation. The guys that are fast are going to be fast. And as long as they miss the big ones, then yes. I mean, I think you're still pretty safe, Andrew, with the guys up front. Asked also what to do with Haley. Had that good finish. I mean, I think Haley's a pretty good play. Starting 22nd. The problem is, I don't know if he gets a lot of PD upside, but at 6,500, we kind of need to play some of those guys. He's better than Eric Almirola starting 17th. Eric was 33rd in single lap, 25th in 10-lap consecutive average. Yeah, he finished 11th in this race last fall, but he's only got 1 top 10, 4 top 20s, 16.8. I mean, at best, Eric's going to finish where he starts. Might get 1 or 2 spots better, but he's not going to be able to get up and do anything else. And other than his paint scheme in the Dale Jr. throwback, I don't like much of Eric Almirola. This track always favors veteran drivers. Yeah, it's too tough. And the tire wear and learning how to save those tires is so big. We're gonna have a lot of comers and goers. I don't like Eric Almirola. He started too far up for me. His practice speeds were god awful. I mean, 33rd and 25th. No top 5s ever in his career here. Only 1 top 10 in the last 5 races. Starting 17th. He's going to be lucky to finish where he starts. And this style track is just not Eric Almirola's style. Michael McDowell, 6,100, starting 19th. Pretty fast in single lap. Pretty good in 10-lap consecutive average. He finished 6th in this race last year. And Michael McDowell is quietly having a year like he had last year. And nobody's talking about him. I mean, in the last 5 races here at Darlington, he's got 2 top 10s and 3 top 20s. Yeah, I mean, look at his 14 total races. He's got a 24.6 average finish. Well, in the last 5, he's got an 18.6. I mean, he's improved his average finish by 6 spots. If that trend continues, I think Michael McDowell is a solid top 15, if not potentially knock on the door on a top 10 tomorrow. This may be a decent cash play for you. And as Matt was saying, Family Man, this track favors experience. And Michael McDowell's got a ton of experience. So, I do like Michael McDowell. I also like Austin Cindric. I don't think Austin Cindric gets up and runs in the top 10, but I don't need him to. I need Austin Cindric to get a top 15. 17th in single lap, 15th in 10-lap consecutive average, 17th place average finish. But in the size, the data size we're looking at here is only 2 races, but both times he's finished 17th. Okay. Go from 25th, improve that by 2 spots, and get up to 15th, and you're going to be right in that ballpark, especially with value at 5,900. If I don't win tomorrow, hope one of y'all can grab. Yeah. Like I told you earlier, in fact, I sent the screenshots, and maybe I'll pull those up here in a second. We'll look at my screenshots from Friday. And I tell you what, do not count yourself out or in until DraftKings sends you the money. Plain and simple. I lost over $1,000 Friday in 1 lap. It's crazy. But I've also had races where I've won that much in 1 lap, in 1 corner. Ryan Newman, 5,800. We've talked about him a little bit here. No experience in this next-gen car. Not anything like he's ever driven before. He was 34th in single lap speed. Didn't do a 10-lap consecutive average. In fact, he only did 18 total laps. He's got 18 laps in this next-gen car. Starting 26. Nope. 0 interest. Now, his stats here are good. 26 total starts, 5 top 5s, 14 top 10s, and 21 top 20s. 13th place average finish. I mean, if we were in the last generation car, absolutely take a Ryan Newman starting 26. But next gen car, being out of the car for 18 months plus, no interest in taking Ryan. Yeah, this would be one of your really, really contrarian plays. Play him and who do we say? Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Eric Almirola, Ryan Newman. Yeah, telling you, if you were to make any money in a tournament playing that lineup, screenshot that and send it to me. Talk to me about LaJoy. All right, LaJoy's on the next page. We're almost there. Noah Gragson, 5,700, starting 29th. I mean, kind of like last week, this is a Noah-style track. He's good at this type of track. He kind of is like Larson and Reddick. He will rip the top. The problem is we don't have any data really at Noah in this style car. He was not great in practice. If he can keep his nose clean, not get punched, or hit the wall, I think Noah Gragson's a decent PD upside play. It's risky though, because he is such an aggressive high line driver that he scrapes the ball too many times and he'll spin it or have a flat tire. I've got him in a few of my lineups, but it makes me nervous. Hope him and Ross get into it again. That was awesome. Yeah, I think they've already kind of hugged it out and have put it beyond them. But I'm telling you, if Ross messes up Noah's race again, absolutely Noah won't even go and put his hands up on him. Noah will just go up and jump him. Noah doesn't screw around, and that's what I like about Noah. He is upfront and honest with everything. Todd Gillen. Until about 3 weeks ago, Todd Gillen was quietly having quite a year. Will this be the race where Todd Gillen gets back into the groove and gets a top 15? Maybe. Starting 24th, okay. 15th in single lap, 9th in 10 lap consecutive average. He's only got one top 20. He's got a 21.5 average finish. He finished 28th. And the only reason he finished in the top 20 in the spring race was because it was just absolutely S show. Yeah, I mean, start finishes, it was crazy. When we get to the optimal lineups, you'll see how crazy everything actually was for that race. There wasn't a driver that was in the optimal lineup that was over $10,000. Corey LaJoy, 5,400, starting 34th, but he's actually starting 36th because he had to change a rear control arm, I think is what they said. He hit the wall in qualifying, and they've had to make that change. So, I mean, he's going back 2 spots. Who cares? He'll get past BJ and Brandon Poole. I'm not worried about that, but I did want to let you know he is going to the rear. He was 10th in single lap speed and 19th in 10 lap consecutive average. And Corey LaJoy is having a really good year. I think he's going to be probably top 5 on the ownership level. Probably a really good cash play. Almost a must-have in cash. Kind of like Chase Elliott. It's almost a must-have. I think somewhere you have Corey LaJoy, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin / Kyle Larson. Yeah, I mean, Martin Truex Jr. is having such great success right now. It might not even be bad having him start from the pole. The problem is he loses any spots at all, and all of a sudden he becomes not optimal by any means. Yeah, I'm surprised that Corey LaJoy hasn't gotten pricier. And I think if he finishes well again, we're going to see him probably jump into the $6,000 range. I mean, the problem is yeah, you could price him over Todd Gillen. You could price him over Noah. You should be pricing him over Ryan Newman. But do you really price Corey LaJoy over an Austin Cindric driving a Penske car compared to a Spire car. I can see him a conversation for pricing him above Michael McDowell, maybe. I mean, Eric Almirola is having. This is not a great track for him, but I'm not sure. I mean, do you put a Spire car above a Stewart Haas? I mean, yeah, right now, probably. But yeah, I understand why DraftKings continues to price him down, because you look at body of work, other than the last 8 races. I mean, his price has gone up. He used to be the guy that was $4,900 or $5,000, so he has gone up a little bit. But I mean, I've got him in 25-30% of my lineups. I think he's a great tournament play. I think he's a pretty safe cash play. He's gonna get points, and you can pair him up with the high price guys. Harrison Burton, I have no interest. Kid way outkicked this coverage. I understand he's decent here. He's got a 17.5 average finish over 2 races. That's pretty good, but you're starting 14th. If you were starting 26, where single lap speed was, yeah, I could have some interest in that, but he outkicked his coverage. And I mean, I like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I mean, I like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to finish maybe a top 10, top 15, but starting 3rd, you have nowhere to go but down. So same thing as Harrison Burton. I just have an interest because you're starting way too far up. Is Spire affiliated with Hendrick? Yes, but very loosely. Hendrick is much more aligned with why am I drawing a blank? Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger's colleague. So Colleague and Hendrick are much more tied at the hip. Richard Childress Racing is tied much more at the hip with Trackhouse. Inspire, I kind of think, gets a little bit from both of them. Inspire's kind of an oddball. And then you've got, here's the reason why you saw Legacy Motorsports move from Chevy to Toyota. Because, I mean, you had Richard Petty, the king. You have 7-time Jimmy Johnson. And you literally, Chevy is telling them at super speedways, you'll fall in line behind Hendricks and behind Colleague and behind Trackhouse. And you're literally talking about 14-time champion between the two of them, and Chevy guys through and through. And you're telling them to fall in line. Where do you think Spire falls? Way down. So I don't blame Legacy and Jimmy Johnson for saying, screw you, Chevy. And Toyota well more than opened their arms and said, we would love to have you. So what does that mean in terms of building the car? Like, why is Larson, Byron, Hendrick 10 times better than Spire? Couple different reasons. Number one, Spire doesn't have the money for the Chevy simulator. For them to go run the Chevy simulator, which, I mean, yeah, you can have a full motion iRacing rig, and it does a pretty good job. These manufactured simulators are like literally like getting into an F-16 flight simulator that the Air Force has got or the Navy has got. It literally is lifelike. You're not holding up the show. So you've got, number one, you've got simulation time. And the way these simulators are now, or what they're able to, how realistic they are in actually showing full tire wear. I mean, the iRacing simulator is really, really close. I want Dodge back in our Cup conversation. I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, so, and there's only so much time and so many people that can get into the simulators. So that's one piece. I mean, the second piece is Spires doesn't have the money to run the 30, 40 different engineers that these guys have. And there's a lot of creative engineering going on. And NASCAR catches them. I mean, how many weeks went by that Hendricks was running the spoilers that were illegal? I don't know, because they didn't catch them. But I guarantee it wasn't the first week they had the spoilers. Just like it wasn't the first week that Richard Childress in the 3 car had the spoiler control arm in the back of the car. That may have been from week 1. It's hard to say. So there's some of that that goes on. You're also talking about hiring the best pit crew guys. When you come to a Hendrick compared to a Spire, Hendrick will be more than happy to pay all of the pit crew guys full-time salaries, where Spire is going to have, I mean, when I say a pit crew guy, so Spire will have a guy that literally will work on the car Monday through Friday and then go to the track and have to change tires. Where Hendrick, literally the tire changer, is the tire changer. That's his job. He knows how to do some work on the car on a weekend, but he's not working on the car in the shop very much. Instead, he's at the gym, he's doing practice runs, he's working with a coach, he's working all those types of things. So you've got pit crew coaches that Spire's probably not paying for. I mean, look at Joe Gibbs Racing leases out pit crew guys to 2311. Ricky Stenhouse's guys are coming from RFK Racing. We saw where they just pulled all of Ricky Stenhouse guys away from Ricky Stenhouse and put them with Chris Buescher's team. So that's the different tiers in the money system that happens with this sport. And that's why you're seeing a BJ McLeod, a Spire, a Rick Ware not ever run up front, because we're just scratching the surface on the money that gets spent. I mean, even this week, listening to Door Bumper Clear, I mean, you have the guys like that are on Door Bumper Clear that are full-time spotters. That is all they do. Spot. And they're full-time cup spotters. And the only way they got to full-time cup spotting was they did really well in truck, they did really well in Xfinity, and now they're the best paid guys on top of a roof. I mean, and those guys are probably making $100,000 a year spotting a car. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. Now, I mean, they probably do some PR stuff with the driver and things of that nature, but yeah, I thought they were getting cars from them. I learned something tonight. Yeah, no, they're not getting the cars from them, but these cars now are so equal that the car is not the difference. So the other thing is, Rick Hendrick, if all 4 of his cars get tore up this week, no big deal. They'll put 4 more cars together. Sure, it costs money, but Rick Hendrick's got millions, multi-million. Where Spire, they tear up both their cars, that hurts. That hurts a team like Spire. That hurts a Rick Ware. Because, I mean, these cars are still a couple $100,000 a piece. And if you total one up, it hurts a small team that doesn't have a huge budget. That's why you see BJ McLeod will go out and literally just run in the back, because he doesn't want to tear up his equipment. He wants to buy the least amount of tires. And the tires are, a set of tires is over something like $3,000 for these cup cars. I mean, the truck teams, Martinsville, when they made the truck teams put on the wet weather tires, the wet weather package were double the amount of the of just the regular tires. That killed some of those truck teams. Literally, Timmy Hill was talking about it. He was like, that literally cost me my tire budget for the next race for the truck teams. So, individual teams have to pay for their tires. Oh, yeah, absolutely. They have to pay for their tires. They have to pay for their gas. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, we see purses. I mean, this weekend's purse is probably I didn't see where Bob Hawker's posted this week's, but we're probably talking $9 million in purse money. And that'll get spread out. Last place will probably make $40,000. So, but now you're looking at $40,000. Well, you had to pay for the car. You had to pay the hauler to haul the car there. You had to hire that driver. You had to hire a pit crew, a crew chief, somebody to work on that car, the engineer, then the tires, then the gas. Next thing you know, that $40,000 doesn't go very far. And that's probably where Rick Ware and BJ McLeod are at. I mean, we're about ready to get. So we've got Brandon Poole. I don't have any interest in. He's starting 36. I think he actually may have made the optimal lineup in the Truck Series, but not doing very well. But just not getting in the wreck. BJ McLeod. I mean, so BJ McLeod, do you really honestly think so? This is a group of YouTubers that literally are sponsoring this car. Out of the Groove, which is Eric, Black Flags Matter, the Iceberg, and all these guys have. I mean, they have good YouTube channels. They're making some decent money. They're not making enough money to sponsor this car. But literally, BJ was probably like, I don't have anybody to sponsor the car. You want to put your name on it? Give me 10 grand, 15 grand. And that paid enough to get the car there. But if BJ goes out and wrecks that car, that's another probably $40,000 or $50,000 on BJ's. That's why we don't see BJ McLeod up there fighting with these guys. BJ probably has enough talent to probably go race this car and do it fairly well. Is he going to finish top 20? No. Can he finish consistently top 30 and battle and sometimes get himself into a top 20? Sure. But the only time he's going to save his cars for the super speedways where everything is equalized. And it doesn't matter where you run, unless you just. I mean, the problem is if you aren't in the draft, you're going to be a hindrance, and you're probably going to end up causing the big one. So he's better off running in the draft, and running towards the back of the draft. That's why you see Rick Ware, BJ McLeod, Spire, all finish these Daytona and Talladega Super Speedway races really well because they all need to take care of their car, and they will literally run 3 seconds behind the pack. In their own little pack. Because if they all stay together, they're as fast as the big pack or close enough that they won't go laps down. But that's why they end up finishing so well, because they don't get up and mix it up until after the last caution. I mean, I do know my stuff, but I've been doing number one, I've been doing Draftkings for probably 9 or 10 years. I've been watching. I'm 52 years old. I'll be 52 in June. And I've been to almost 70 Martinsville races. I've been to probably almost 200 Cup races. This is my sport. This is my NFL. This is my Major League Baseball. I mean, this is the sport that I love and have been around. I'm now into iRacing. I do it 4 nights a week. So yeah, I understand a lot about it. And I guess that's sometimes why I end up having pretty decent turnouts inside my Draftkings. Yeah, I do know sport. I listen to Dale Jr.'s podcast. I listen to Corey LaJoy's podcast. I listen to Door Bumper Clear. Yes, I mean I listen to probably 8 or 9 hours of podcast a week on this. So yeah, you listen to it enough and it absorbs in and you just learn it. But that's what I love. I love this sport. It's my NFL. And I like the NFL too, don't get me wrong. And I like Major League Baseball. NBA could go float a boat. But and I'll watch the NBA when the finals come. As long as the Lakers aren't in it. If the Lakers aren't in it, I'm not watching it. But either way, here we're getting down to it. I'm an hour and 24 in, but I do enjoy talking to you guys. Glad you're here. Glad you are hanging out and sending me questions. I'm going to try to do this most Saturday nights, so I typically will be here. The only time it becomes a problem is when I go to Martinsville. I don't have great internet where I go there, but I'm getting my buddy to get a little bit faster internet. So when I get there, I can do these, and I do have a laptop that I can take with me now. So, but either way, with that, and most of the time the Xfinity race is on Saturday night. So I don't think you want to see me after a race on a Saturday night. Best NASCAR DFS. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. So here are my top 4 guys that'll probably have some of the most highest ownership, but I think it's kind of one of those. This is a good cash guys to look at. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin. I have them ranked. William Byron's not starting first. Martin Truex is. The place differentials. Here's a great set of guys to look for place differentials, and then your value. Oh, I didn't change. This is last week. That's why this is off. Hold on. Oh, I didn't change that. Don't drive me crazy if I don't do this. I don't even think I made the picture. Here, let's do this. Cheat. Yeah, I mean, here's all the stuff that I have. All these different spreadsheets that literally get compiled, and everything that ends up coming out to my ranking system. So yeah, I put a lot of time and effort into all the information. But so I've got, yeah, this is better. Denny Hamlin starting 8th, William Byron 4th, Kyle Larson 7th, and Kevin Harvick 20th. Here are the guys that I think will probably have the most ownership and are probably the best safe cash plays. And you're looking to probably have 1 or 2 of these guys in most of your lineups. Then you're looking for 2 to maybe 3 place differentials. Now, you can pull place differentials from either the value side or the place differential side. But I think Chase Elliott, Chris Buescher, Eric Jones are great place differentials. So you can figure out how to get Chris Buescher, Eric Jones, a Denny Hamlin, a Kyle Larson, put them into a lineup with, like a Tyler Reddick, and then you drop down and grab Corey LaJoie at 5,400, or maybe even you can go with a Ty Dillon at 5,100. He didn't rank out so well in my ranking system. That's why I've got him down here, but I don't mind playing him. I think I do have him in some. But then these guys here, I don't like at all because of where they're starting. Bubba Wallace is starting 2nd, Daniel Suarez starting 6th, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting 3rd. They've never had a top 5 finish. So why, yes, they could have one tomorrow, and I get that. But I'm not willing to take that chance when I'm playing with my money. I missed the beginning. I heard about one group being faster than other. Was Elliott in the fast track group? Trust. Practice speeds, there is some correlation with practice speeds to typically how they will run on Sunday. It's really going to fall into how cautions fall tomorrow. That and how sparing they are with their tires. I think they have 9 sets of tires. And last week you would have been, they had like 9 sets of tires, and everybody's like, oh, that should be plenty. There were teams that ran out of tires last week at Kansas because tire wear was so dramatic. We're going to see as dramatic, if not more, fall off in tomorrow's race at Darlington. Atlanta was the worst until they repaved it. Darlington was 2nd on tire wear. Kansas and Vegas were somewhere 3rd, 4th. Dover kind of falls into that group too. Those are really the 5 tracks that had the worst tire wear. Well, really bad tire wear ends up being really good racing and lots of different strategy. So, and this is kind of how I start to build my lineups. I'm looking at building 1 or 2 out of here, 2 to 3 out of this group, and then I'm trying to find one guy that I think is probably going to start top 15-ish and still finish top 10 or top 5. I think Christopher Bell is probably a really good pick to have a good top 10 finish, if not a top 5 finish. Well, starting 16th, that's not a ton of PD upside, but the finish is going to be enough for me. Same thing with the Tyler Reddick. And either one of those could easily win the race. Martin Truex Jr. scares me because he's starting from the pole. Crew chiefs that are historically make good adjustments, fast cars. Kevin Harvick's, plain and simple. Childress is probably one of the best crew chiefs in the garage. You could also put Kyle Larson's crew chief in there. But the number 4 crew chief is probably one of the best in the garage right now. Chase Elliott's crew chief's good. Most of the Hendrick guys are really good. But Hendrick pays really good money. Richard Childress pays Roddy Childress really good money to do what he does. There's another difference that a Hendrick, an SHR, a Joe Gibbs Racing, they're willing to pay for really good crew chiefs. Well, really good crew chiefs make really good money. Sometimes they make more money than the drivers. But they are the ones that are making the decisions on how these things handle around the track. So here's that's what I've got here. So let's go back to this. I want to show you optimal lineups from the past 4 races. Sorry, I hope that doesn't get you too. All right. So here's the spring race. And nobody was priced over $10,000 that made the optimal lineup in the spring race at Darlington. We got to remember this is the first next-gen car race at Darlington. So it was a nest show. And Joey Logano's got another great crew chief, and he knows how to make adjustments to his car. And that's what makes a champion. Did you hear that Reddick lost pit stall selection? Yeah, Reddick lost pit stall selection. He lost his engineer, his car chief, his crew chief, and two was full-time pit crew guys. Yeah. And my guess is he's going to end up losing a lot more on Tuesday after the penalties come out from they found something on the car that they really did not like. They haven't said what that was yet. Typically that is an L1 style penalty, which is what Brad K got hit with last year. That's what the 3 car got hit with earlier this year. It's the $100,000 fine. It's the 50 points. It's the crew chief being suspended for 4 weeks. It's the heftiest, other than being thrown out of the sport, it's the heftiest fine that they can get. So Hendrick was doing Reddick's car and team, they found something really bad on it. They haven't said what it was. Maybe they'll say tomorrow. But they're going to get hit pretty hard with a fine. So they don't have their car chief or their crew chief for the race tomorrow. And they lost their pit spot selection. They were able to qualify, but they lost all that other stuff. So I don't think it'll hurt Reddick. Reddick is a good enough driver, and the car's already set up for this race. So losing those 2 guys is not... And when they lose them, they literally... They just can't be on pit road. So when Rick Hendrick was going through all their... When they got hit with the spoiler issue, Kyle Larson's crew chief was actually up in one of the hospitality suites, literally phoning in what he wanted done with the car. He couldn't talk to Kyle, but he was able to communicate with the interim crew chief that was sitting on top of the box. So, was he really suspended? But in past years, they just set up a communications line, and they would just sit in Charlotte, watch the race, and literally be sending messages to the crew chief that was on top of the box. So Yeah, they toss them out of the racetrack, supposedly, but they're still making the calls. 46,400 total salary is interesting. Hard to leave that much. Oh yeah, yeah. That was the optimal lineup for the spring. Got to remember this was a crazy race. I mean, other than Joey Logano and who's not on here is William Byron, because remember Joey Logano took out William Byron with like 10 laps to go to win this race and all sorts of controversy. But yeah, so that was the spring race. I missed that. But this is the spring race. So this was the fall race. This is probably a little bit more of what we're probably looking at. Now we don't have a Cole Custer here, but starting 30th, who's starting 30th that we potentially look at? But I mean, so we've got, you had Joe Logano who started from the pole. He got 64.25 points because he led 64 laps. I mean, we had a whole host of people leading laps. Same thing here. I mean, this was a 293 laps and only one guy led 100. I mean, a third of the laps. So all the lead laps got spread out. And that's kind of what happened in Kansas last week. All of that got spread out. So I think we're going to kind of see the same type of thing tomorrow. Is the tire wear is going to be significant. We're going to see lots of different lead changes and guys that lead laps. I'm not sure we ever get to a true dominator. And when I'm looking for a dominator, I'm looking for somebody who leads 30% of the laps or 30% of the fast laps, which is pretty tough. But when we get down here, we look at Truex Jr. Yeah, I was in a hurry today. This was supposed to say Darlington Spring 21. But Martin Truex Jr. led 248 of the 293 laps. That is a dominator. True dominator. And he had 62 fast laps. That's 137 points. If you don't have him in your lineup, you're not even going to probably hit tournament. Definitely won't win cash without him. Same thing over here. We had two dominators in the fall 21 race. 156 and 146 laps of 367. Nobody else led. Remember, this was the old generation car, not the next gen. This new gen car is so hard to handle that we're just not going to see that. We're going to see lots of, especially with tracks that have huge tire wear. We're not going to see it at Martinsville. We're not going to see it at Richmond unless they fix the tires or give more horsepower. But we were able to see dominators back like that. We're not seeing that type of domination anymore with this next gen car. So dominators will play, but they're not as important. Finishing positions and place differential is going to be big. And we had $800 left and $3,600 left. That's why I've tried to put this out here, is so that you see sometimes you don't have to spend all that money. Whereas in the generation car that was in 2021, we had $100 left. You almost had to spend all your money. Only $400 left. So you don't necessarily have to spend all your money to end up having really good races. You just got to be smart with your picks. So if you got any more questions, let me know. But I've kept everybody on here a long time. Hopefully it's been informative. I try to bring a decent amount of knowledge, and I try not to BS you. I try to tell you the way I see it. And hopefully it helps. Hopefully one of you guys hits for an optimal lineup and you win a bunch of money. And that's kind of what I like to do. So good luck tomorrow. It's Darlington. It's the track too tough to tame. It's the lady in black. It's the one that's going to end up giving you a stripe down the side of your car. You guys are going to run the high line. We're going to have comers and goers. Oh yeah, I was going to show you. Find it. I'm going to show you my yeah, here we go. So here it is, going to the green white checker on Friday night. This is 5 to go. So with they were only supposed to race 147 laps or 148 laps, but green white checkered. 5 laps to go. I'm sitting in first place in the happy hour, and first place in quarter jukebox, winning almost a little over 1,200. Well, 2 laps later, here's my finish. Down to 63. Christian Eckes still won. Stuart Friesen, let's see how much. I don't think very many people really got changed. Let's see, where did it go? Yeah, Christian Eckes, Stuart Friesen, Tanner Gray, William Byron. So the top 4 were all the same. Carson Hocevar came up. Roger Carruth came. Well, Roger Carruth was about the same spot. But Nick Suarez went down. Matt Crafton went down. But the one that really got me was Ben Rhodes. And Corey Haim. Where was Ben? Ben Rhodes was 4th, and I had him in. He was in one of these 2 lineups. Was 5th in mini today until him and Check spun. Yeah, 4 points for first. I'm telling you, last corner, last lap. Do not count your money, and don't think you're out of it until either DraftKings sends you money or doesn't send you money. So yeah. Yeah, I just thought this was kind of crazy, and actually ended up taking a screenshot of it. A lot of times I record it. If you've ever watched the intro, if you have a second, go back and watch my intro. I used to record and then put them into fast forward, and it would kind of show you the ups and downs of what a day of watching NASCAR and DraftKings at the same time, and how it will drive you just absolutely batty if you let it. I find it very fascinating, very interesting to watch how it moves and how it changes. And in fact, you can even tell. I was talking with Matt, Family Man, last week during the race. We were both having a great race until the 3rd stage happened. I mean, we were both well into the top 5 of really good tournaments. And after stage 3 started, crash and burn. The $1,000 story now. You have an interesting. Yeah, I've got lots of those stories. Ben Rhodes cost me also a COTA earlier this year. That was literally in the 19th turn or the 18th turn, whatever it is at COTA, the last turn, where his transaxle broke. I was sitting in first. I had $1,000 same way. He never finished, never got to the start finish line. Yeah, another $1,000 day. Gone. That's okay. I mean, I hit for Daytona. I hit the chrome horn. I mean, it was $10,000, and I finished 2nd in the chrome horn, hit 5,000. Yeah, I'll win it back. I'm not worried about it. That I do it because I enjoy doing this. It also keeps me. Now, I am a Kyle Larson fan. I was a Mark Martin fan. I've always been a fan of the sport, though. So kind of doing DraftKings kind of makes me have a lot of interest in a lot of the other drivers. My worst bad bet, first in the mini max. Bell got penalized and they took it away. That's strange because typically DraftKings will pay out before the penalizations. Last year when Denny and Kyle Busch finished 1st and 2nd and they got the races taken away, DraftKings had already paid out. They paid out too quickly, and it didn't affect the payouts. Same thing happened at Talladega this year. I didn't have that great of a Talladega race, so it didn't really affect me. But some of the other guys that I follow on Twitter and stuff like that, they were pissed, because they got money either taken away or didn't make money or something. They were irate. But it's one of those. It's so many ups and downs with this thing. But either way, we're an hour and 43 minutes in. I appreciate you tuning in. Good luck tomorrow. Let me know if anybody hits. Let me know what your good picks were, what your bad picks were. I'll be back next Saturday, yes. I don't know the full format for the All-Star race. And those things are so wild. We have no information on North Wilkesboro. And that's going to be another track that's going to literally grade up tires, spit them out. It's actually going to be a lot of fun just to watch. I don't know how much I'll go and get into much DraftKings on it. But I'll do a show on it. But yeah, I'll be on next Saturday night. Join back in. Maybe we'll just talk some more NASCAR. Talk about. I stopped by North Wilkesboro on Thursday when I came through there. The place looks great. I can't believe how much work they've done to that place. It looks amazing. So, good luck, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next Saturday. If you happen to hit for anything, send me a message. Would love to hear about it. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so got to be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Mac. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys! Way to rebound! Great job!
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.